are going to have a great show for you today, folks. We are going to have a great show for you today. It's time to go vote. Sir, first of all, special service announcement. Please, anybody who has not yet voted, you still have all day today to go ahead and put your vote out. Let America hear your voice. Segundo, if you aren't able to go to vote today, make sure to vote. You have from 7 to 7 to vote on Monday. I don't care if you are in Texas. I don't care if you are in California. I don't care if you're in Florida. This is the time that you make a difference. Folks, you know, if your vote was not all that important, I want you to think about this. Several folks have tried so hard to stop your vote. So folks, please remember, go out there and vote. It is essential. I cannot tell you any deeper how essential it is. Anyhow, we have a great show for you today. And as I'm pulling it up, because as usual, you know, every now and then I forget to pull the show up before time. Title of the show today is Vote, Vote, Vote. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and your freedom is on the line. Do you think that's hyperbole? No, it's not. It's not hyperbole at all. The tagline for the show, if you are apathetic, then snap out of it. America needs you now. Social Security needs you now. Medicare needs you now. Am I hyperventilating? No, I'm not. When you have seen our healthcare system, when you hear what folks intend to do with our healthcare system, no amount of hyperventilation is too much. No amount is too much. But before we get started, folks, I want to talk about the Houston Chronicle. I want to talk about their choice when they decided to select. You know, as part of a nonprofit radio station, we can't particularly give anybody, we don't take, well, you know what my positions are. I am a progressive. But we have to be fair and balanced in the way we educate, if you will. But the Houston Chronicle, after giving Lina Hidalgo a pretty darn good review, and actually after saying that Miller was sort of self-centered and not allowing others to speak, and after stating many other things, you know, after reading that entire where they were explaining who and why they were endorsing, I was about to say, oh, wow. It seems like the Chronicle is going to endorse Lina Hidalgo. That was my thought process. It actually seemed that way based on what they had to say. And then it says, but after some very, very difficult thoughts, we had to endorse Alexandra Miller. And I was like, wow. After saying all of this, wow. And, it didn't go over very well in the progressive space. It didn't go over very well for young people. It didn't go over very well for a lot of folks who actually saw a difference in our county government. One that was no longer controlled by contractors. One that was no longer controlled by people who were funneling monies or a developer wanting to build somewhere inside of in the aquifer or one of these places that we know we shouldn't build. That was out. No longer could these guys come into the county house. So, of course, you know, the spares were going to hit Miss Hidalgo. A lot of bad information, a lot of lies are going to come out because, you know, you mess with the powers that be. You mess with the people who control the economy or who decided to take over control of the economy in Harris County. You know you're going to be up with the big boys, and the big boys are going to do, and they're going to pay whomever to really try to make things look different. And that's what they did. But still, the Houston Chronicle, a great mainstream newspaper as they are, the ones who are really looking out for you, right? They came to the conclusion that we are going to pick somebody. We've been telling the story about Miller long before the endorsement. We understood where she was funded. We understood who was funding her. We understood why they picked somebody that could say tacitly, pero tú sabes que yo también soy Latina, as if that should matter. but it doesn't. It didn't. It shouldn't. Before I continue with this story, however, I want to already engage you guys who want to call and be on air. Make a comment either on this or the other subjects that we're going to speak about. 713-526-5738. I am honored to have El Señor Stuart in the this control room, making sure everything runs perfectly fine. Señor Stuart, how are you doing today, sir?
Buenos días.
¿Cómo estás?
Bien, bien. Thank
Bien.
you, Egberto.
Hey, my brother, thank you for being in there. And now Stuart is holding on to double duties. He's playing the boards and playing the phones at the same time. I tell you, you've moved up from being the oldest intern to being the extravagant intern.
Yeah, basically, I'm the last man standing, but please do call. We've got some lines available, 713-528-5736, and hit number 2 when you hear the recording. That'll put you into me in the studio, and I'll get you queued up to speak on the air with Egberto.
Hey, Stuart, you just made a little boo-boo. You said 528. It's 713-526-5738.
Yes. Sorry about that.
Hey, Steve. Hear me, Steve, now. Hey, Stuart. You know, you're going to have somebody going to be mad at you when they call that 528 number, man.
526-5738. 526. I'll say it a million times like Dwayne Bradley.
713-526-5738. Give us a call. But anyway, let me continue that story with Alexandra Miller. All right. So now it turns out that it seems like the Houston Chronicle has gotten buyer's remorse. I won't say who one of the editors were, but they actually got onto Twitter and to say, no, actually, even though Miller has gotten several $100,000 from Christian nationalists, we are not going to go ahead and, she's not one of them. She's getting several $100,000 from them, but she's not one of them. To which one of the leaders of Indivisible Houston replied in the tweet and said, well, if you haven't given the money back, if you hold on to the money, then it seems to me like you're probably one of them. If you weren't, you would either donate that money somewhere. Hey, give folks who need that money the thing. Anyway, as it turns out, this is from the people who told you to go, that they endorsed this woman. And this is what the Chronicle had to say. Why do 2 West Texas oil billionaires, Christian nationalists, waging war against secular public schools, care who becomes the next chief executive of Harris County, hundreds of miles from their homes? Why did a Houston real estate developer give $400,000, a staggering sum, in a local campaign to Republican County Judge candidate Alexandria del Moral Miller? Why did a furniture salesman who became a celebrity by waving fistfuls of cash and promising to save you money, give $448,000 to Miller in a single month? What, aside from earnest hopes of good governance, might these mega donors expect in exchange for their money? How much pressure will Miller face to do their bidding if she wins? These and other questions arise in reviewing Miller's latest campaign finance reports as she enters the home stretch of her bid to unseat one-term incumbent Democrat Lina Hidalgo. As the Chronicle's Jasper Scherer reported, Miller has raised $8.6 million since July 1st, including $3.7 million in the past month alone. A county judge, $3.7 million in 1 month. En un mes, ella logró ganar $3.7 millones. 1 month. By comparison, in the 2018 election, then incumbent Republican Ed Emmett, somebody that a lot of folks like, raised only $446,000 from July through October. In other words, the old Republican guy that was running, he only raised 2,000% less. 2,000% less than Miller did. But she comes in, somebody with no experience, never had a job of authority as she will have if she were to become the the county judge, the most important, the most powerful person in Harris County controlling her purse strings, she got a bunch of rich people to give her $8.6 million. Harris County, who do you think she answers to? Does she answer to you or to those $8.6 million? Come on. We've spoken about purchasing candidates. We've spoken about purchasing politicians. We've spoken about why is it that you can't get in our county or in America the things that you need. But the wealthy, the rich, always seem to get what they want. This is an example. Now of course, the county has a choice. You can decide if you want somebody who is owned and paid for by rich folk. You've gotten $4 million for a county judge position in 1 month. Harris County. Think about that. How dare somebody, how dare the Chronicle, and look, it's not like she wasn't raising millions of dollars before the endorsement. She was raising this money, so you have to ask the Chronicle. Remember what I talk about, independent media like KPFT, who only owes their relevance to you. Again, independent media, KPFT, and who owns their relevance to you, who owns their loyalty to you. But who does Alexandra Miller owns her loyalty to? $8.3 million. Folks, can we wake up? Can we understand what's going on in this county, in this country? It is our responsibility here at KPFT to inform. We can't tell you how to vote, but we can inform you and tell you who owns Harris County after the leader of Harris County, if they were to become the leader of Harris County, gets $8.3 million from just a few developers and rich fat cats. Look, you're not hearing this on Channel 13. You're not hearing this on MSNBC. You're not hearing this on NBC. You're not hearing this on CBS. Even as the Houston Chronicle was forced, their editorial board was forced to come back and say, editorial, Miller, return your big donations from far-right mega donors. That's what the editorial board that just endorsed her is telling her. Return the money. That's what they're saying. Return the money. John Carter on the internet, he says, the other question is, why did they spend that amount of money on her campaign? They are buying the seat and will expect big returns. You can expect all flood mitigation to stop. Did your house flood before? You can expect it again. That is from John Carter at Politics Done Right on the internet. Patricia Robinson says, Mattress Mac, by bringing recognition to himself for telling off Philly fans, will draw people to her with his support, I'm afraid. Well, let me tell you something about our listeners, and let me tell you something about Patricia Robinson. Let me tell you something about John Carter. We know that an informed population will act as it should, informed, and will vote as it should, informed. I don't care who recommends a particular candidate. If you put the data out there, if you show where it's going to affect their bread and butter, Miss Patricia Robinson, then if you again, first of all, I say if you still support that person, it's not shame on us for doing our job of informing. It is shame on you. So the data we're putting it out here. Folks, call 713-526-5738 if you want to get on air. 713-526-5738 and hit the number 2. Stuart had to remind me to say that. 713-526-5738 and hit the number 2 to get on air. I want to hear what you want to add to the discussion before we move on to the other subject. But this one irked me so much so that I did it on our internet show yesterday, and I figured since we are broadcasting on this 100,000 watt transmitter that you guys support with your contributions, and I want to thank you so kindly for the contributions that you guys have made over the last several days. Thank you. Patricia now adds, but there are a lot of uninformed voters out there who refuse to educate themselves. I agree, but we are going to inform quite a few as well, Patricia. And not only that, but we have the new listener base, 713 526 573. Do you want to add to the discussion? Give us a call, 713 526 KPFT. Una vez más, 713-526-5738. Y si también quieren hablar y hablar en español, me pueden llamar, podemos hablar en español. Si quieres hablar algo de lo que está haciendo Alexandra Miller, también lo que está haciendo Lina Hidalgo. 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738. All right, hit the number 2. I keep forgetting. I don't know what I'd do without Stuart, man. I don't know what I'd do without Stuart. Anyway, one item that leaps from Miller's reports, according to the Chronicle, a pair of $100,000 donations from the Defend Texas Liberty Political Action Committee. This PAC is funded almost entirely by Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilkes, who made their fortunes in oil exploration and fracking and have donated lavishly to far-right candidates for the Texas legislature and statewide offices. Among other notable gifts, Houston home builder Richard Weekly gave Miller $400,000 for the largest single donation in July through September reporting period. Furniture salesman and philanthropy Jim Mattress McInvales and his wife, Linda, have given more than $600,000 to Miller. McInvale often appears in television ads with Miller and was one of her earliest supporters. Again, these are a few people giving her a lot of money. And you folks out there are a lot of people not giving her money. So who is she responsible to? Who is she responsible to? It is extremely important that we understand the fraud that occurs, and I'm not saying fraud I'm talking fraud figuratively. Let's go ahead and get Eric in. Eric, come on in. Eric, you're
Hello.
on. Yes.
Yes. Thank you for taking my call. No, I'm. You got a great program. You're giving out a lot of good information. This is very, very important, especially come crunch time. And just wanted to contribute a little bit that, I hear this all the time, low information voters, yada, yada, yada. However, I'd push back and say, look, we live in the information age, not the wisdom age. There's a ton of information out there. People act like, oh yeah, all there is good information. No, there's a ton of bad information. And people want to act like there aren't think tanks that put information out there that is disinformation that looks genuine, peer-reviewed, sort of, or maybe, they know what to put and they flood the zone with expletives that I won't, disgrace your show with saying. And we need to know that. So now, what do we do about that? Well, we don't know what people know. You can't assume or figure or anything that they know this information. So you have to tell them. You just have to tell them like a human being, because nobody's mind was ever changed acting like a butthole. Period. The end. That's how the right gets over on them. Well, hey, Egberto, gosh, you lost your job, right? Because they moved the thing over, overseas. Well, you see that other guy over there? Well, see, he's taken that other job that you could have gotten. Well, is that fair? He just got here. Why don't you have that job? Whoa. Time out, guy. You're the one that just moved my job overseas. Mm-hmm. Or out of state.
Eric,
That's what we need to do.
Eric, first of all, I want to thank you for adding that to the discussion, how the disinformation comes. I mean, we have organizations like the Heritage Foundation, the Katie Institutes, and these other foundations that make things look plausible that shouldn't be. Trickle-down economics, the Laffer curve, all these different things that they put out there to give people the impression that, oh, there's another way and there's this other way is better. So thank you, first of all, for bringing that up as far as the think tanks and the disinformation that they put out there. Secondly, it is also important. My daughter today, we were driving over here, and we were talking about Social Security and what people don't know, and I said something that in a manner that I shouldn't have said, but I would never have said it on the radio. But I said it to her, and I won't use the term on the radio here, but she looked at me and she said, Dad, that is not the way that you want to say that. And right away I got defensive and I said, but I would not have said that on the radio. And she said, Dad, that's not what you want to say. You want to say it this way. And when my daughter said it this way, I said, yeah. She said, and the reason why you don't even want to say it when you're talking to me is that you will get on the radio and you will slip and say it that way. Okay, so I said I took the lesson from my daughter, and then I said I'm not going to say it that way. I'll make sure to say it right. So when you talk about low information listeners, we have to realize exactly what you said before as well. The place is flooded with information, and we have to make that effort to go out there and inform them. And for people who said it's a waste of time, I tell you to listen to the show that we did on what's today? It's Friday, that we did on Wednesday. I actually posted it, and the importance in that show was to watch how a right-winger came on this station, and even we allowed him to give the answers to the questions, and by the time he realized he was caught and he got frustrated and kind of got off, one of the people that I posted at Daily Co said, you see, Egberto, that was a waste of time. That's why we should only mess with the base. To which I said, no, I speak to everybody, because that particular right-winger was not convinced. But think about the thousands that listened to him come to the conclusion himself. A right-winger coming to the correct conclusion, and only after he came to the conclusion, he threw his hands up in the air and said, no, and then hangs up. So thank you for saying that, Eric. Thank you very much for saying that. Anything else you want to add, sir?
No, that's exactly right. I'll just continue that. All you're doing is planting a seed, and you're exactly right with you never know who's listening, but you never know if and when that seed is going to germinate, and if it's going to, all of a sudden, he's going to have that aha moment.
Exactly.
It happens with every single one of them. So we can't discount. You've got to treat people like human beings. Nobody likes being condescended to. For all we know,
that's the word my daughter used. That's the word my daughter used. Yes. Condescension.
Just
right.
Beyond her years. And so, we can't assume, because odds are, people have already gone out and done research.
Right.
They've already gone out and looked. And odds are, especially with how much disinformation there is out there, they've probably clued in on that. And there's always a kernel of truth in it. We have to deal with that. If you deal with that, you may not change their mind right away. You may not change it at all. They'll never admit that you've changed their mind.
Right.
But you know what you're going to see? You're going to see the actions, because it's one thing to say, oh yeah, I'm for this and I'm for that. It's another thing entirely when it's you and yourself and the Lord in that voting group.
And I thank you for that, because that's something that I talk about all the time. I really, look, you have been a refreshing call. Eric, thank you very much for calling in. You have a wonderful rest of the day. Please remember to tell folks about who we are, KPFT, etc. All right, let's go to MOD. MOD, come on in.
Hey, happy 2.5-year break.
Hi, well, I missed you, brother. Talk to me.
Well, I thought we were talking about election, but I heard you reference, economics and financing and economy there in your latter end of your conversation just now.
Well, brother, this is your show, so just talk. What you want to tell me?
So, do you know who Paul Volcker is?
Of course I know. He's the guy who almost destroyed the middle class by taking our interest rates up to 13, 14% and beyond.
Yeah, on paper, it was overt, but it was actually near 20.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about Paul Volcker, Roberto, is he came in Carter's administration in 1979, and that was the end of what we call Keynesian economics.
Right.
Meaning we have three-legged stool: business, consumer, government, and the New Deal, Keynesian economics, that was FDR's New Deal economy, is, one leg goes slow, the other two standing up, and then it stays upright. Okay, so that's when it ended, and Volcker came in Carter's administration. Get that? And by the end, like you just said a minute ago, by 1982, it was announced as 10+% rate increase was what happened. That was the beginning of the trickle down. Right.
Right, but let me just correct you in one thing, MOD, because this is important. All right, you're correct that Volcker came in. Volcker came in because the theory was that inflation was so bad that it would have so deteriorated the dollar that it would have been worse than the recession created by what he did. I have an updated concept of that, but I just wanted folks to know that it wasn't that Volcker proper wasn't like super bad. Volcker just was tunnel vision. The only tool he had was increasing interest rates. And my thing is that the whole paradigm is wrong. But we'll go into that after you speak because I don't want to interrupt you. I just wanted to put that in there.
This is good because, you always, let me get my point out real quick, and I appreciate that. So the rendering of Keynesian economics replaced by a trickle-down has not left, Roberto. That's why it's important. How you see the glass half full or empty doesn't matter. It's the fact it was the rendering
Right.
of our economy that we call the New Deal. So,
Right.
And hence then, we're still waiting, going on 45 plus years for the rich people to start hiring. So has not ended. One economy came to an end. And why it's important that we know this is because in the beginning of September at Jackson Hole, Wyoming, when Powell met with, the IMF and other central banks and their summit, I listened to Powell say it on that Friday. He on Bloomberg that, if the numbers come back bad at the end of September, we'll bring in Paul Volcker's rate increase.
Which is what we're seeing now. Unfortunately, you're right, MOD. That is what we're seeing now.
Okay, well, guess what? We're at, the pace, in just like 3 months, at the pace we're going, it took 2+ years from end of 79 to end of 82 to get what was, like they said, official, overt, 10+%, but it was more close to 20 in reality.
Right.
So this is what they're going to do to address the outstanding.
I want to add to that, MOD. Don't hang up, but I want the audience to hear this because this has to do with our voting as well. And folks, I'm going to use a few terms here that I'm going to explain as I say it, but it's important. And
I need an extra brownie point on this to conclude. Go ahead.
Well, I'll give you any number of brownie points you want, brother. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So here's the deal. This is very important. When these guys came in, the way Reagan justified this trickle down theory and lowering taxes continuously for the wealthy was because a economist. His name was Laffer. I don't remember the name of his first name, but Laffer was the economist.
Arthur Laffer.
Arthur Laffer. Thank you very much. You see, look, I'm surrounded by intellect, man. Okay, Arthur Laffer came in, all right? And he drew on the back. It was no real science behind it. He drew on the back of a napkin a line where that said after you reach a certain amount of taxes, somehow it doesn't matter if you keep increasing taxes, some magical way revenue will fall. But then the corollary to that was if you lower taxes, somehow magically the government is going to get more money. And you ask, but where's the government going to get more money? Oh, economic activity. It has never resulted in the truth. And when Clinton came into power, Clinton said, to hell with that. We are going for this tax increase on the wealthy, and we got the budget balanced, etc. But the reason I want to bring this up along with Volcker is there are two animals that are fighting right now. And if certain people get into power, if you elect people into power, again, they're going to make it seem like it's not them doing it. It's somehow the economy, this magical market working on its own. All right? That's not going to be the case. Let me explain what I mean. Right now, as Katie Porter pointed out, inflation is at 8.2%. About 4% of that inflation comes from the supply chain problem, which means since these plutocrats, these oligarchs, these corporate thugs, since they went ahead and manufactured all our products overseas, or a lot of our products overseas, it meant that when you have a pandemic, when you have hurricanes or any one of these things, it disrupts you being able to ship the products you make back to the United States, which create a shortage in the United States, which when you have a shortage, supply and demand says you get an increase in prices. All right? Now, and to make it worse, these corporate thugs created a process called just-in-time inventory. And what that meant is the ship is in the middle of the Atlantic or the Pacific coming over to America. And by the time that ship gets to America, those products are needed at the factory at that time. But if you get a hurricane or you get a pandemic or any one of these things, at that point in time, you have a shortage. because you can't get the product. You have to shut down the plant. People go out without work, etc. And it's a snowballing effect, and that is what has hit us. This supply chain problem is a problem created by the corporate sector's greed. Okay, let's be clear here. And who pays for that corporate sector greed? We pay for it in the form of inflation. In other words, they can't get the product to us. The products increase in price, and we pay the price. But here's a kicker that comes from that inflation. In as much as we are paying an inflated amount of money for those products, whether it be a car, whether it be whatever it is, they are actually, watch how you're moving your papers, MOD, it's going over the air. As these things change, as we make more, as they cost more, they even make a premium on their failure, because let's say they had to buy 10 barrels of oil at $50. Now they only have to buy 5 barrels of oil at $100. They make the same amount of money, but now it's all profit because the manufacture of oil and all of that has remained constant. And that goes for product after product after product. So we get screwed from the inflation rate because they make more money even with a higher inflation than they did before. But here's the other kicker, man. And this is the other kicker. Now, to reduce inflation, instead of a government instituting something called price controls that says you cannot move your prices from where they were before, punto y final, you can't do it. We don't say that. We say we are going to penalize Americans for the corporate screw up. And now we are going to increase interest rates on Americans to force those guys to drop their prices. So what we do now, the bankers are making the money now, right? We increase the discount rate by a certain amount, and the bankers increase that discount rate by a premium. Oh my God, really? Yes. So we have to pay to convince the rich guy to lower his prices by shopping less. And how do we shop less? By giving more of our money not to buy goods, but to pay interest rates on our loans, on our credit cards, on the cars. So we get hit every direction. When the interest rates goes up, somebody else is making money on the interest rates too. But it's not us. Right. So we have to understand the fraud that is our economic system. And, you know, I would love a right-winger to call me and dispute anything that I've just said there in a very civil way. Because, folks, we pay the price in inflation. Folks, we pay the price in shortages. Folks, we pay the price with the increased interest rates. And we then blame Biden? The only thing you can blame Biden for is for not being tough on corporations. But you can't blame him for the thuggery. And, think about this. If somebody went ahead and did this to the petty thief that goes ahead and that steals a candy bar, oh, we want to castrate them. We want to throw them away and get rid of the key. That's what we want to do with somebody that goes into a store and get a candy bar. But for those oil titans who, with no shortage of oil, with no shortage of anything, they just priced the oil because they could, even though there was an oil glut. Because Russia's oil is still on the market, India and China is buying it. There's still an oil glut. How do we know there's an oil glut? Because Saudi Arabia is dropping production by 2 million barrels a day. Something that I've said months ago. When everybody was talking about, I said, did you ever have a problem finding gas at a gas station? No. Did you ever have a shortage of any one of your fuels? No. So what's the deal? Why are prices going up? Because they could. Folks, it's a fraud. And all the news that you're hearing in this case from Republicans talking about what's causing inflation and what causes the gas prices to go up, you have been snowed. And they're coming in to keep the status quo, to make sure that there's not a wage and that there's not a tax, a windfall tax on oil companies and for all the thugs that are taking your money. It's not Biden taking your money. It's not Biden creating the climate to take your money. It's the corporation saying that Biden is doing that when they're laughing themselves to the bank. MOD, what would you like to add?
Well, very, very good. I'm not going to need 15 minutes, but please allow me, okay?
You got 2 minutes.
So I think that's what we call, venture capitalism.
Yes, it is.
Bertho?
Yes.
Okay. And that runs its course. Maybe this might help also to your guy drawing up the idea on napkin. I listened to Paul Sanders, the Prime Minister to Great Britain's 1975 speech to not the Tories but the Common floor, and saying there's a young lady who has a plan. And yes, our economy's crushed. Yes, we have borrowed too much money. Yes, we're below producing. But this new economic model that this young lady is going to present will be the end of our motherland. And what that was not Milton Friedman's South Chicago austerity economics. We were taught, the academia says that's where it came from, but in actuality, here's a fun fact I found out last year. South Chicago austerity economics, Milton Friedman's, came from the dad his name is Boris Johnson, and I think he was a prime minister recently in the United Kingdom. Yeah, okay. So Bojo, he's the only one MP that's ever had a grant to Eton. There's other parliamentary members who attended Eton, but none of them, nobody. Boris is the only one that got what's called a Keynes grant. That means he had a scholarship through what's called a Keynes grant. No, and the reason why is that I can prove indirectly is that his dad was the one who wrote Keynes, what's called a deregulation, privatization, or austerity, South Chicago, Milton Friedman's economics. So it was actually formulated from the London School Institute by Boris Johnson's dad, economist. He was not a globalist.
I told you 2 minutes. You're up to 3 minutes. Give me a closer, because I got to go to Juan Garcia.
Was that cool? Well, hold on, buddy. So was that 3 minutes coherent explained to you?
Yes, sir. Not only that, you're always well read, sir.
The reason I'm explaining this to you is because that's the origin of deregulation, privatization, which has been our economic model.
And you are
since the inception. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You are so right about that, but let me just tell you about about privatization.
I got 3 minutes in?
You got 10 seconds. You got to close up. I got to go to John.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is that's our diplomacy model we've been deploying for some time. Doesn't matter if most Muslims killed by any president, which was Obama. It doesn't matter which executive political ideology or those in office. That's the democracy economic model we've been deploying since the inception of the CIA.
And I got to close you down, Mo, but I want to give you some kudos for this. Well, hold on. I want to give you some kudos first of all. All right. There's a lot that you've spoken there that needs some expansion on. But when you talk about
it's all facts.
No. Let me come on. Wait. Let me give you your kudos. Let me tell you how good you did. All right. Here's what I'm saying. Here's what I want to say. It is important for folks to understand, because I don't blame these individuals. I blame a system that is now on autopilot. But we'll talk about this some other time. Thank you so kindly for calling MOD.
Okey-dokey.
And let's go to John Garcia. Hey, John, talk to me, hermano.
It is important for folks to understand. Egberto.
Yeah, turn it down.
Garcia, how are you doing?
Oh, yeah,
Great.
amigo, baja el volumen. Gracias.
I already.
Dear.
Listen.
Yes.
About your diagnosis is perfect. I mean, about increasing interest rates is the worst that the economy or the Federal Reserve could do.
Yes.
It's the only tool they have, but it's a very bad tool.
Yes.
Because the solution for inflation is increasing the offer. And to increase the offer, you need investment. And if you have expensive money to loan, then you don't have investment. So
there you go. But I always knew you were a smart dude, Garcia.
So you said that a right guy, a person in the right, bringing a solution. But I think that the solution is going back to the basic of capitalism, what Adam Smith proposed on the wealth of the nations. So every country should work on developing their strength and produce their own things and try to export to other places. And for some reason, the corporations after the 90s, the MBAs started teaching globalization and how easy it was to produce in China. And they went away from the basic of capitalism. And what we have now is a capitalism of imports. So China is the only real capitalist country in the world.
Ooh, wow, I love what you're saying.
Customer.
Yes, you get it. But I have a little difference of opinion, but you get it.
Okay, but the thing is working how we solve it. Because, I mean, come from a country, I have seen all the price controls that are imaginable since I was a child, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work in the long term. You need to produce. If you
Yes.
don't produce, there is not enough price control. You cannot control 300 million people.
True, I agree.
So-
So far, we're good. Now, let me tell you, and did you finish that I can give a short response?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
All right. Here's what I want to tell you, John. I do not call what you just said capitalism. Okay? And I think you and I have had several discussions before, and you like to say, "Tú eres socialista," and that's not the issue at all. It's not that at all. And I think one of the things that people don't understand is my belief is that we need a bifurcated economy. In other words, half the economy or whatever needs to be the economy, whatever percentage needs to be in the free. I don't call it capitalism at all. It has to be in the free market. In other words, it has to be free enterprise. I'll explain that in a little bit. The other parts of the economy must not reside in that domain. Let me give an example. If you get a broken leg today, you don't have the opportunity to go shop around for who best to repair your leg. Okay? If you also if you also have a lot of private companies that are using resources that belong to the state. Let's give an example. Right now, Venezuela, which is where you're from, is swimming in oil. You guys are sitting on top of the more oil than any other country on the planet, period. Okay?
Yeah, but it is 5,000 feet underground.
I know, but you didn't let me finish, man, because I know all of that. I know where your oil is. It's accessible, though. It is very accessible. If we can do the thing in the middle of and it also has a lot. Most of your oil also has a lot of sulfur, which we have the engineering to get to take care of. But here's my issue, right? That oil belongs to all Venezuelans. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. Don't you agree also if that oil, if you guys is a resource-rich country, that after exploiting that oil and the people in that country, after paying for those investors who decided to help to pick up the oil or whatever, that just like investors makes profits on the delta on that barrel of oil, so should the people of Venezuela. I mean, most of that money after paying for investment should go to the people, don't you think?
Yes, and that has been the model since 60 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
the story is that the oil belongs to the people. The government is the administrator.
Yes.
They invite their own investment or external.
Exactly.
Depending on the left. The
But-
left only they say we do it ourselves.
But that is
Then it
not
comes
good.
a
America.
president, a little right. But at the end, they handle the money. The people never sees the money. Not with the previous government, not with Chavez.
Exactamente.
It's all a fool. It's fooling people. But going back to what you...
No, but
the
I have
point
I need to finish my point, though. I promise you, you get
Okay.
more time. I promise you. But because this is important. So I think so far we are in agreement because the basic facts here is you believe that the resources should belong to the people. I want to contrast that with America. Because America, we have a lot of public lands with oil on it, and we have our oil companies drill it. They pay a few taxes on it. They pay, but when it comes to the profit from the delta in the oil, it all goes to the oil companies and their shareholders. It doesn't go back into the coffers of the United States. Even Venezuela, under Carlos Andrés Pérez, had a better model. As bad as it was, it had a better model than we had here in the United States. So my question to you is this, Senor Garcia. Think about this. If Americans were to see a successful Venezuela who is using its natural resources to enrich its people, and we have all these public lands where American corporations are taking that profit that Venezuela, in as much as there's a lot of crookedness, even under Carlos Andrés Pérez, don't you think that creates a problem for a resource, not a resource, but a marketing problem for Americans when they realize they've been had by American corporations when a country in South America is doing the right thing?
Well, yes,
Okay,
definitely.
These are questions. I got to ask a
just
question.
answering. Let me give you an answer.
Yes.
If it's a private land,
Yes, sir.
maybe the conversation is different.
We're
But
talking public.
It's still a difficult point because it comes that you own the land or you own the underground.
Exactly.
So, but if it is a public land, then whatever that is over the ground or underground belongs to the public.
Exactly.
So the public is the owner.
Thank you.
And that's so that's like very simple. If there are you guys here in the U.S., the government is not demanding his fair part of the production, then he's not doing a favor to the society.
Exactly.
That belongs to the people.
Exactly. Let me ask you to hold, Garcia, because I have people in the chat room that I want to keep them in the conversation as well. So I want to tell John Cotter or a ship, satellite corporations will not pay the just-in-time issues, just the consumer pays. Robert Davenport says, how is it fair economic policy that interest rates go up on loans so rapidly, but not interest rates paid to the citizens on savings or checking account balances? We are getting scammed by the Bannisters and the government, and no one dares mention it in the media. And Paul C. Wolsey says, there is no universe in which Hidalgo, well, I won't read that one. All right. Anyhow, go ahead and continue your comments. So I just want to make sure we keep everybody engaged.
Yeah, and that everything you just read is describing people abusing the capitalist or the free economy system.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what the system should be.
Mm-hmm.
I will not like to blame the free economy system because of those people abusing the system. Is because the other side is controlling, is imposing obligations, and I know that part doesn't work either.
Mm-hmm.
So what you need is to improve the free economy system. Is giving more freedom to everybody playing into the system.
Right.
Not only freedom to the corporations and limitations to the public. The freedom should be for everyone.
I agree.
You increase interest rates for loans, you have to increase interest rates to pay for your savings.
Right.
That's obvious. And yes, sometimes this, because it's not let's say a proportional strength in both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Citizen is always weaker to the biggest structures. Then the structures do what they are allowed to do. Is nobody is trying to give some power to the citizen. So that's what government should do, try to make the fight equal in helping the individual to be fighting in the same position. Yeah, but not on controls, that's delicate, but it is important.
What I'm saying, now let me ask you something, Garcia, Juan, John. If somebody is hurting you, if somebody is holding a knife on you right now, and a cop comes around or another citizen comes around, you want that citizen to do what is necessary to protect you, correct?
Of course.
All right.
It's my duty as citizen to help a fellow citizen that is being, attacked.
Thank you. So, and now if somebody is trying to take money out of your pocket and robbing you, you want somebody to do something about that too, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, all these oil companies are robbing the people that can least afford to be robbed right now. It's not an economic issue. It's an issue that if you take a look at their balance sheet and how much money they are pocketing, they are taking the well-being away from millions of Americans right now when they charge much more than what is available, and the excuse is whatever the market will bear. Well, as I said, if I see somebody stealing from you, Senor John, I am going to do something to stop it. And that's what we have here. We have a legal form of theft that's going on. And until we mitigate that, I don't care if you want to call yourself a capitalist, you are hurting people. And there is a government, we the people, that should stop that from from being hurt. And that's what that's all I believe in. I don't believe in the pizza shop needs to be held by the government. I don't think the grocery store has to be held by the government, we the people. That's the freedom comes from us having all these different things. But for places where you don't have a choice, it is imperative, in my humble opinion, that the government gets involved. Senor.
Yeah, and that's exactly establishing options for the citizen.
Right.
If you don't have the options, it's a problem of free market.
Yes.
Of course, if you are bleeding and you need to get into an ER, there is no free market. You just need to get in and pay whatever they want to charge.
And that's why I support healthcare for all, because that is one of the areas in our system.
That's another program about that.
No, yeah, but it's a program to solve. Exactly, because since there's no free market for healthcare, there should be nobody profiting as they should in that portion of healthcare. Yes, I know for innovation. You know what is so interesting, and I repeat
everybody
this.
should do their fair profit.
Yes,
that's how the system works.
Exactly.
And, companies make profits, and
yes,
you should pay your tax for the profit
I
you
agree.
make, and that's the money the government gets as to function. So yes,
and you see, so there's not a lot of there's not a lot of difference. And what I tell people, right?
My short circuit is when you guys use the word socialism.
I know,
that moment
mira, yo sé, I get it. But what I'm saying is this, right? And that's why we probably need to. I hate to can a word that really sums it up, because it's been dismembered. It's been, sometimes I think I'm going senile. There's a word that I'm looking for that I can't find. But that is a problem that we have, right? When people start putting labels onto things they don't realize, I am more free market than Exxon or all these capitalists that are ripping folks off. Because, and yo tenía mi propia compañía, I had my own software company, man. So, I mean.
Yeah, and every big company trying to find protections, it's not for the free market. They are from, you call them greedy. It's not fair that they're trying to find protections from the government.
Right.
And they complain that the government is offering some protection to the people. I mean, I think that the government should not be protecting the big companies.
Right. Well, again, we are
protecting the companies is an intrusion into a free economy, and it's not fair capitalism.
Exactly.
It's what you
hermano,
and that listen for the top something.
Hermano, this is where I really would like us to stop. Capitalism by design, has no heart, no soul, nothing. And what I would hope for people to do is stop using the word in a benevolent manner. And let's start talking about humanity. What I mean by that is this. All capitalism says is we can capitalize anything. Just like we capitalize healthcare. We capitalize all these different things. We turned it into financial instruments. People that are completely disassociated for the service and products that are there then make a whole ton of money on the capitalization of these different structures. For a lot of our listeners who don't understand this topic that I just mentioned, forgive me, I'll talk about it at a different time. It's not anything. I believe strongly in free enterprise. I believe strongly that people should be able to create their companies and do as they please. Everybody should pay their fair tax. I believe all of that. I will never call myself a capitalist, because capitalism is nothing more. What we call capitalism today is nothing more than antiseptic slavery. And those who work within the domain are nothing but slaves, right? But it's just in an antiseptic manner.
I know, but let me just a piece of information.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know there is what some people call the shareholder capitalism.
Right.
That is the way to run businesses, only thinking in the shareholders. Mm-hmm. But there is also the stakeholder capitalism.
That's a good thing you just said, sir.
The way to run business, thinking in the community, in the employee, in the society, in the consumer. And in that way, the shareholders will be good served with good profit.
Senor, you hit the nail on the head.
Both are capitalism.
Sir, I don't call that capitalism, though, but we'll talk about that another time, because you're coming into the studio with me sometime next week, right?
Yeah, on Friday.
On Friday next week, you'll come into the studio.
I'm looking forward.
I am looking forward to it, too, because, I mean, this is the kind of conversation we have to have, right? But I need to let you go, because I want to end with a closing statement. So, John Garcia.
Thank you.
Thank you so kindly. You have a great day, my brother. All right, folks. I want to continue here. Back to the program as far as what the original topic is. I just want to, like I said, this show belongs to you guys, but you can call in and always change the subject. But I want to finish here. I want to ask you hear the topic, and this is a lot of what we spoke was apropos. So please, folks, go out there and vote. Go out there and vote your interest. Go out there and vote for people who believe in government, who believe that government can do good. Go out there and vote for people who want to serve. Go out there and vote for people who are going to say, I want to see a better society. I don't want to divide people up and call folks, I want to own this one and all. We don't need that. I love the entire phase of humanity. I love my Republican brothers and sisters. I love my Democratic brothers and sisters. I love my progressive brothers and sisters. I love all folk. And one of the reasons we do this right here, Politics Done Right on KPFT, is because we want to make a difference. We don't want to come and play games with your minds. We want you to use your mind. Anybody who is getting $8.3 million for a job that pays under $200,000 to buy that office, that should tell you something. And this one is irking me to no end, that we are going to attempt to replace somebody that has taken no money from developers, etc. And somehow we are going to say that person is deserving. Who owns them? Remember what I called a lot of this, folks, indentured servitude or antiseptic slavery. Do not become an antiseptic slave. Do not become an indentured servant. Vote your interests. John Carter says, I'm here I just read it I've been in Lagos, Nigeria a few times, and though there are billions of dollars in the country, little to none makes it to the public. Oil gas corporations are the ones keeping the dollars, and we've got to mitigate that. We've got to stop that. Palsy Wolsey says, I'm hoping there's a third party choice on this one. Sometime it's going to occur, but for now it won't. Folks, please go out there and vote. Vote intelligently. Vote your interest. Don't vote emotion. Vote what is going to work for you, your family, your city, your county, your state, your country. That is what it's all about. I am optimistic for Tuesday. I am optimistic that there's going to be a rush later on today in Harris County to vote appropriately. I am optimistic that in all throughout this country, people are going to say, oh my God, I see now, I got to go to vote. I've got to save our freedom. I've got to save a woman's right to control her own body. I have got to save Social Security. I have got to save Medicare. I have got to save Medicaid. I am going to go do it, baby. I am going to go vote. Apathetic be damned. I'm going to go do it, baby. Apathetic be gone. Apathy be gone. Apathy be gone. I got 10 seconds here, folks. 30 seconds. Early vote yesterday in Harris County was 75K. That was the highest day yet. Thank you for that information, John. And folks, let's make it higher today and keep on voting and vote your interest. Vote your wife's interest. Vote your daughter's interest. Vote everybody's interest. Folks, my name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right on KPFT. And you guys know how I'm going to end this, baby. I am what? Out! We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.